can hear you.
Okay, Henry, go ahead and you can
All right.
start.
This is the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting for September 21st, 2021. And we are now starting. If Kim would be so kind as to do the roll call.
Yeah, Henry McEnroth,
Here.
Ray Atkinson,
Present.
Chetamir Jessic,
Present.
and that's it right now. Everybody else is either absent or late. We only
Yeah.
Bob LaSalle was the only other one that was confirmed for coming tonight. So with that being said, we do not have a quorum, so we won't vote on the minutes this month. We'll go ahead and vote on the minutes from, I guess it was the July meeting. We'll vote on those next month along with tonight's minutes.
So without a quorum, then we can't do any voting. We can't do any thing other than listen and chat. So next would be the not having minutes. Next would be any comments from citizens.
We got the adoption of the agenda if everybody's okay with what is on it.
Well, okay. Well, you guys want to adopt the agenda, seeing as how we can't vote? So let's hear from the citizens.
And our citizen comment, if you can go ahead and state your name and city of residence, and then you'll have 3 minutes to present your comments.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Pieslowitz. I'm a resident of Oregon City. First of all, I want to thank you and say good evening. Thank you for the time you spent volunteering for our community. I appreciate it. I am here speaking on behalf of the Barclay Hills Neighborhood Association. I currently serve on the Association Planning and Land Use Committee. At our last meeting, September 14th, John Lewis was in attendance. The subject of increased volume of traffic on Malala came up yet again. John suggested we bring this to you, the Traffic Advisory Committee, and ask that you advocate in our behalf. I have provided some documents for your review. I'm going to speak to them, but I can't go into great detail in 3 minutes, but I'm just going to make some highlights. Our research shows, well, actually it's my research, but our research shows that the population of Oregon City has increased by 18.55% since the 2010 census. The increased volume of traffic has created serious problems on both Lynn Avenue and Malala Avenue, the two main arteries connecting the lower part of our city with the upper part of our city. I would like to now summarize briefly the documents I've submitted. The specific intersections that I would like to talk to, our neighborhood considers unsafe and dangerous at this point. The intersections are on Malala Avenue, the intersection of Pleasant Avenue, Mount Hood, Mountain View, Barclay Hills, and Holmes Lane. All of those intersections that I mentioned, except Holmes Lane, are north of Holmes Lane, between Pearl and Holmes Lane on Malala. Where was I? These intersections are Pleasant Avenue and Mount Hood is less than 0.3 miles from the light at Holmes and Mountain and Malala. Mountain View is under 0.2 miles and Barclay Hills is under 0.1 miles from the light. All of the homes south of Pearl to Mountain View and west of Malala are landlocked by Singer Creek Park. All of those homes in those areas directly feed onto Malala in order to get in and out of their neighborhoods. I included a map that I made a copy of from the city website that shows the specific area I'm speaking to. The Barclay Hills subdivision, as an example, which is a very large subdivision, the only ingress regress from that subdivision is directly onto Malala. Everything there is landlocked by Newell Creek and the canyon. In addition, I gave you a list of 9 apartments that are in that direct area, close to or in the area of the subdivision or of that intersection of homes and Malala. The distances listed on that particular document, I didn't have time to recalculate the distance for the specific intersection. This had been prepared as part of documentation regarding the proposed 60-unit complex that is proposed to go on Holmes Lane. So these distances actually would be considerably closer to the intersection of Holmes and Malala. Pleasant Avenue and Mount Hood join Malala.
We've lost your audio.
I'm not hearing anything either.
Catherine, we're not hearing you. Catherine? Catherine, can you hear me? Catherine?
I don't think she's.
Catherine, can you stop? We can't hear you.
Write a note. Hold it to the camera.
Catherine, we cannot hear you. Oh,
Yeah, we can't hear you either.
we lost you. We could hear you for a little while.
Yeah, it's weird.
Perhaps you killed the audio at your end.
If you want to, yeah, if you want to maybe exit and then come back. I don't know if she can hear me.
Call back and we'll start over from about the point where you were talking about the apartments and the distances.
Gotta love Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom. She can't hear and we can't hear her.
Kim, you got pencil and paper?
Somewhere.
I
Here,
mean,
I'll email her.
oh, yeah. Let me try.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh,
There you go.
Yay.
Yay!
Can you hear us? Speak, Catherine, can you speak? We had you.
I can't hear anybody.
We can hear you. You can't hear us?
can't hear you either.
Okay, go.
Do you have a phone number for her, Kim, by any chance?
No, she didn't include it in her email. I just emailed her and asked her if she could leave the meeting and then re-enter and see if that helps.
Sometimes low tech is the only way to go.
Unfortunately, it's hard to
Yeah.
see what's on there.
Speaker on something. Ugh.
That's weird. We can hear her sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a problem at her end on her computer. I know I've managed to hit the wrong button sometimes.
And I hate this. I'd much rather talk to people in person. I was partly into my spiel.
Okay.
My speaker's on
We can
Yes,
hear
it's
you.
on.
and
We can hear, we
volume
can,
is up. I don't know, but I can't hear them.
We
So
can
is there a
hear,
way I can type a message and just say I can't hear
There's no
you?
chat.
Something went wrong?
There's no chat down here either, so I
No.
can't do that.
So what do I do?
Well, you're sorry.
hey, Kim,
Yeah.
can you send her an email saying that we will reschedule her for next time,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah.
Because I want to hear what she
Yeah.
has to say, but I want her to be calm for it.
Yeah, and maybe we could even, I don't know if this is possible, John, you can tell me if it is or not. Maybe just schedule like a separate meeting, maybe just to hear her concerns or.
Well,
I don't know.
it would. We have done something similar for.
Can't hear a thing.
well, I mean, I think based on the information that she sent, the problem is something we may, I'm not exactly sure what the ask is, but I think
Mhm.
one of my commitments to the neighborhood was to look at the corridor a little bit more. I mean, there's definitely limitations to what we can do along that corridor, but we can look at signage and, ideas about what, so we could do kind of a staff level review and have that ready for the next meeting.
Sounds good.
What one thing, John, been wondering about is, could we somehow put down this section of Malala between, say, Pearl and Warner Milne as a future corridor to look at in terms of interconnection between all the side streets and how it reacts with the traffic? Because I can only think of about 2 or 3 streets in that section that actually has ability to go anywhere other than to Malala.
Well, I mean, I think we could do more of a safety, kind of like a staff safety review, and like what we've done with some other areas. That's kind of what I'm thinking of anyway. And just maybe bringing our own observations about what maybe could do. The connectivity is what it is. There's too many
Right.
canyons on either side of Malala Avenue to really kind of change connectivity, beyond kind of what's being proposed for this, for the development that Catherine's talking about. But
I can hear you now.
oh, good.
Can you hear me? I don't know what happened. My speaker was on everything. but I couldn't figure out. I'm sorry, I got kind of stuck in the middle. I don't know where I left off. So,
Catherine,
yes.
we have seen your email, which has most of the material in it.
Well, I didn't give you very specific details about distances and that kind of thing. Plus, I didn't mention that this is not the first time Barclay Hills Neighborhood Association has tried to bring this to the attention of the city. It's just has gotten progressively worse. In 2012, the city conducted a traffic study, January of that year. I sent a copy of that for you all to review. The focus of the study was the crosswalk in front of Grocery Outlet, between Grocery Outlet and Barclay Hills Drive. But it did mention problems at Mountain View and traffic problems. It did not specifically talk about the fact that now traffic literally blocks the intersection during heavy traffic times. Sometimes heavy traffic times will start as early as 3 in the afternoon. It is virtually impossible now to make a left-hand turn off of Mountain View onto Malala, just because of the volume of traffic coming up that hill, cresting the hill on a curve. They can't see Mountain View. They crest the curve, crest the hill, and all of a sudden they're at Mountain View. I have sat in that turn lane for 10 minutes with signal on, trying to make a left-hand turn. I personally have. 3 different occasions, I just avoided a head-on collision. Twice, I had my front part of my car in the turn lane, blinker on, ready to go over. A bus was stopped at the corner of Mountain View and Malala. There's a TriMet bus stop on the north corner, also a school bus stop there. And cars swerved around from behind the bus into the left turn lane and came straight at me, never even seeing that I was going into that lane. That happened twice. The last time I was in the lane with my blinker on, stopped. A bus was discharging passengers. There's a crosswalk across Mountain View. You don't go across that crosswalk when passengers are getting off a bus and going across the crosswalk. I was sitting there and a car came around that bus, and they're not going any 30 miles an hour like it's posted, straight at me. That time I had no choice. I could not swerve to my right. There was traffic. I hit my horn. It was terrifying. And the driver did stop before they hit the front of my car. But the expression on that driver's face was one of, where the hell did you come from? So it's dangerous. And it's not just me. Other people have had problems. I have spoken with people who live off of Pleasant, who have to use Pleasant to get on Malala. Now, you can only make a right-hand turn off of Pleasant on Malala at that intersection, but they have trouble just making a right turn now onto Malala because of the traffic. And the other end of Pleasant is the only place you can make a left turn off of Pleasant. And people that live back there say they don't even try anymore. They go, they make a right turn, they go up, and then they get onto homes, find a place they can turn around and have to go back to go north. You know, this is, and it's serious. There have been all kinds of fender benders, but apparently there is no crash data to support that this is a problem. Our concern, and not just mine, but Barclay Hill Neighborhoods Association concern, is that somebody is going to end up dying before anything gets done. And like I said, we tried in 2012. We wrote a letter in April to the Planning Commission. We sent it to the address of the Community Development Department Director. We never got a response. In June, we went to the Planning Commission meeting, made a public comment, talked about the problems of the heavy R2 zoning in the Barclay Neighborhood Association. We specifically spoke to that area of Malala and the intersections, and the fact that all of the properties on Mountain View west of Cedar Lane are R2 zoned. All of the properties on Cedar Lane, except the last two at the dead end, are R2 zoned. And it is just crazy to even think about adding more units in here. So we've been at it a long time and nothing has happened. We had a work study session in 2012 with the Planning Commission. Everybody agreed there were problems and that we needed to have solutions, but nothing was done. And at that particular work study session, because I was chairman of the Land Use Committee at the time, the Director of Community Development was there, and he stated we didn't have to worry about the R2 zoning on Holmes and Mountain View because the curve of the land would prevent any more multifamily dwellings in there. Well, now we're facing 60 units. So what do?
Catherine, we need to limit this discussion to what's existing out there, which you.
Right now it's a mess, and right now it's dangerous.
Yes.
And I personally, I avoid Malala if I can. I mean, I have to for my own safety. And my neighbors are the same way. I live on Cedar Lane, but neighbors on Cedar Lane, Mountain View, Maggie Place, all of us, every time we have to go on to Malala, we feel we're literally taking our lives in our hands. So this needs to be addressed. And I've spoken with people that live on Pleasant, live in the apartment complex on Pleasant. They're having the same kind of concerns and issues. They literally have fear every time they have to get on or off Malala.
So I want to thank you for bringing it up, because I have seen some of the things that you're talking about. I drive through there enough to understand what you're talking about. While you were unable to hear, I chatted with John Lewis about the possibility of having some data from the city about safety on those intersections from their perspective available at the next meeting. And I also had asked about the possibility, without a promise, a possibility of having what we would call a corridor study of the through there, because really what the concerns you bring up exist from Warner Milne to Pearl.
Exactly. And Lynn Avenue also, I was being very specific in one problem area, but we've got so many in the Barclay Hills Neighborhood Association area. It's just.
I'm well aware of Lynn Avenue. I live on 5th Street, and that's the same thing.
And honestly, I use Lynn as often as possible when I have to go to the, north.
Yeah.
I use Lynn.
And as we pointed out, we can't do anything at this meeting other than you hear. So.
Well, I would like to make some suggestions as far as Lynn goes. 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on Lynn is dangerous. There's so many streets that dead end and come into Lynn on curves. It's just, for that to be 35 miles an hour, it's just dangerous. I drove upland today. I had an appointment in Beaverton. And when I came home, I came up Lynn, and it just floors me that the city is keeping that at a 35-mile-an-hour zone. I mean, cars go faster than the speed limit anyway, but 35 miles an hour is like an invitation to go 45, crazy. So anyway, there's problems. I would be happy to give you all of our research and my personal research I've been doing since 2012, if that would be helpful.
John, would that be helpful to us?
Yes, Catherine, anything you want to share, that you're willing to share, we're happy to look at and, at least kind of better understand your perspective. I think that's a lot of what this is about, is trying to understand the perspectives of you and others in that neighborhood and trying to figure out solutions. I mean,
well, I
don't think the city has adopted call it our comprehensive plan, which is being discussed right now, our transportation system plan. There's, Oregon City is still slated to grow. And given the fact that we've got, key corridors that, because of our topography, we've got a couple of key corridors that get us up and down the hill, and Malala is the main one, right? So this concern about ingress and egress off of Mountain View is a real concern. And whatever we could do to resolve that would be,
it's not just Mountain View, John. It's all of the streets south of Pearl, all of them coming onto Mount Malala. It's just becoming a serious problem, and it could be solved, I would think, some of it with some signs, like a warning sign that there's an intersection up ahead, more speed limit signs. There are not that many speed limit signs posted on Malala, and it's 30 miles an hour, but people don't even see the signs. Another one is Holmes Lane. People are traveling Holmes Lane at 40 and 50, sometimes 60 miles an hour between Pearl and Malala, that section. And there are only, I think, 2 speed limit signs on Holmes right now. I counted only 1 going eastbound today, and I think there's only 1 going westbound. So at least if you put a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign periodically, or a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, maybe people will start to pay attention. We don't have the police force to monitor traffic on all these problem areas, like Lynn. So there are solutions. It's a matter of sitting down and making a list and then seeing what's feasible to do. At least that's my opinion, for all it's worth.
The other thing, I didn't get a bunch of a chance today, Catherine, to look at all your pieces in detail that you submitted, but I think it's important to note that the city has taken action. I don't know. I'm trying to follow your testimony and some of the dates. It looked to me like the city did respond with some study work. And then
the city responded with a study in 2012 of the crosswalk. That was a major issue. Barclay Hills Neighborhood Association had brought that up. We brought it up along with other traffic concerns, but they focused on the crosswalk, and they came up with some solutions. That's good.
We added a pedestrian activated crosswalk there.
Right.
And we've revised the median there as
right.
well. I also know, I don't remember the timing of the projects, but on Mountain View, when we redeveloped the reservoir sites, we
You
made some,
widen-
we
You
made some,
widen Mountain View as
Yeah.
far as the public works property goes. That's the extent of the widening of Mountain View.
well, we took
and-
it to Malala. We took it to Malala, so we
Right,
prohibited the parking along the, used to be the carpet shop, now it's a bike shop, right? And so,
that curb is not painted. It should have been painted to prohibit parking. Just
I
last,
I
no,
would
just-
say, Catherine, let me just kind of finish and we need to wrap this up, but my point is there's been a lot of change since 2012 specific to that intersection. But that's not to say that it's all encompassing and that we couldn't make some more improvements. So yeah, I'd like to look at all the information you have and have sent. That will help us to better understand your concerns.
I did
so-
have one little question. And if Cedar Lane is listed as a street on the city maps, then why are all of the homes on Cedar Lanes off of a drive alley?
Well, because that's how that area, I don't know how, but it's a long-standing area that was not developed to any city standard. So in theory, other than that new development off of Maggie Place, there they were required to put in the frontage improvements. None of the other property owners along Cedar Lane at the time they developed, maybe it was platted land and they were just allowed to develop off of a kind of a drive aisle. It is something we consider a street, and I believe most of it's public right of way. At least get back to, do you live at 7-Eleven?
We're at 710. 7-Eleven's across from us. We don't have, we access Cedar Lane by and granted an easement across their property. 7-Eleven, the lot for 7-Eleven Cedar Lane is the end of Cedar Lane. But the roadway coming up here, yes, it has pavement, but it's never been taken care of. It's falling apart. I mean, and all we've ever heard is, well, that's a county easement. It's not a city street. So that was just a question I had. I mean, okay, we all pay our taxes. We all pay for the streets. I have no problem with that. I love Oregon City. Don't get me wrong. I love Oregon City. I love living here. But it's really becoming a dangerous place for us.
With that, we need to move on. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
But
that's fine. I didn't mean to take up so much of your time. And like I said, I really appreciate all you do for our city. I think it's great that you're willing to volunteer your time for this. So thank all of you. Have a good evening.
And thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Well, hopefully we'll get some attention and something will happen. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. So at this point, may I suggest that we move on? And I think the next item would be the Public Works discussion.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, I hope. Can everybody see the Public Works report?
Yay.
Yes.
All right. So I'm just going to go through a few slides here, pretty much a slide for every topic, and see if we can't get through this and give you some of your evening back.
That would be helpful.
So let me get my screen right. So this is really just an update. One of our TAC members raised the concern for Redland Road and the lack of illumination and Illumination, I mean street lighting along there. So Vance and team reached out to PGE, and I think these they added 3 lights along a stretch of Redland Road between Abernathy and Anchor Way. So those should all be in place. I can't actually say that I've seen them myself, but I believe that they're in place. And we just wanted to get back to you with that piece of information. So Josh has been in front of you with the Park Place urbanization plan. That's currently, the goal of the plan was to determine how best to urbanize some old county roadways, right? Not too different from the conversation we just had. Maybe in a little better condition, but a lot of that was developed under county standards. So Park Place, my understanding of the history of Park Place is it was annexed based on the need for sewer service years ago. Henry, you might remember that.
That's the basic truth.
Yeah. So, a lot of those roads were developed. Some have sidewalks and curbs, some don't. So we're trying to, really what we'd like is a guidance document so that as new development comes in, infill development happens, we can have some agreement that this neighborhood's different than, or portions of this neighborhood are different than some of the other typical developments we would see in Oregon City, whereby there may be streets in there that maybe would never have a sidewalk in them. And that would be consistent with the desire or the intent of the neighborhood. So we've asked the neighborhood through surveys and presentations that we completed for feedback and to prioritize some of these, help us understand the neighborhood's priorities with regard to cross sections, where sidewalks should be extended, where bike lanes, would play out, and what those cross sections could look like, rather than a large boulevard, for instance, that especially on a street that's, I guess anything is up for redevelopment these days, but a lot of it's built out, and really there's not even room for some of the cross sections that we have in our minimum standards. So looking at ways to, better handle that. And it also helps us we've done some cost estimates. So, for some of these projects, many of them we know we're going to be stretched to be able to afford, but development will build a lot of this stuff. So, and it can be conditioned to develop it. So having that as a guide for those folks who are doing the development review is kind of what we're heading for. And trying to get this approved through the Planning Commission is what we're up against right now. And September 27th is the next Planning Commission meeting. And we just wanted you to know that in case you have an interest in testifying on behalf, that'd be great. I don't recall. I know we got a vote of approval from the TAC. I don't recall if there's a letter of support for it for the Planning Commission meeting or not. But at this point, I think we've got everything in the file that we'd like, and we're hoping for a favorable vote of approval from the Planning Commission.
I think most of our discussion was related to the proposed development south of Holcomb.
Well, I don't, south of, you mean the area that's yet to be developed?
Yes.
Yeah, this study doesn't actually incorporate that. That area would be developed under the city's, existing standards. This Park Place urbanization plan is taking the existing development and trying to lay out a plan for how it would, how it should continue to be developed, whether it be through a CIP or through infill development. And yeah, the TAC considered this plan subsequent or outside of the kind of the Park Place concept plan area. Does that ring a bell with you guys?
It does with me, but then that's only one of three.
I remember discussion in the past about Holcomb with the, I think, sidewalks and how there's hills in regarding like bike lanes on the hills. Was that resolved and like using sharrows or using bike lanes?
On Holcomb?
I think it was Holcomb, or maybe it was a year ago, that we were discussing the hills and, bike lanes and sidewalks and stuff like that, connected infrastructure.
It
And
was,
whether
yeah,
or
but
not-
again, if that was what we talked about, it was not focused so much on Holcomb because there's a Holcomb plan. It was more inside the neighborhood, some of these side streets, Hunter, Swan, Front,
Okay.
Apperson.
And I think also we thinking about a safe routes to school grant that I was possibly applying for and didn't get. Is that Holcomb as well?
That was, yeah.
Okay, that's what
So,
I'm thinking of.
I mean, yeah, we've spent a lot of time in the neighborhood with various topics. So maybe that's what you're recalling, but I just really kind of wanted to make sure you were aware that this is going before the planning commission and with hopes of adoption.
Hey, John, so I keep driving that Holcomb Boulevard, taking my kid out there to elementary school, and even with a speed change, I mean, I drive whatever speed limit is 30 miles, and there's cars flying. I'm just waiting for somebody to ram into me. I mean, like there's a flashing sign there by the store, and it's like 50 miles an hour. It's like, there's still people are just completely like just hammering it through the Holcomb, especially when Holcomb elementary school is, I guess, in session. It's like it's just people are just driving really fast there still. So
I will tell you one thing that I have noticed from my occasional drives coming down that street, and that is that the grade is steep enough that if you want to control the vehicle, you really need to come down it in second gear, which is sort of counterintuitive to an automatic.
well, and I was thinking maybe that sign that the speed warning, the whatever the indicator that flashes, can that be moved up higher towards the
I'd say about Swan,
yeah.
because really, if you come down the hill, after you go around the corner at the school, it gets a little steeper.
Yeah. Another thing,
And that's the point where I think a lot of the speed starts picking up.
another thing I noticed there, I mean, it's like a police was the other day, but I go pick up my son from Holcomb and I just park in the neighborhood and I walk down and get to the school, but trying to get off that into I mean, there's cars sitting there for 15, 20 minutes honking, just pissed because they can't get off. The vehicles are trying to make a turn into Holcomb to get their kids, and they're just stuck in traffic. There's no way to they have a really poor circulation with their buses, and so the traffic just builds up there all the way down past the Swan every day. But that's just bad, maybe bad. Well, I don't know that school can do anything better. I mean, it's just a reality. And so you get traffic really bad there around like 2:15, 2:30, because they just can't keep going up the Holcomb because the people want to make a left turn into the Holcomb to pick up their kids.
And that partly because that school is about 60, 70 years old, and there's not enough room in there for more than about 2 buses let alone 20 or 30 cars that want to come in and pick up their children. And the school, I think, has some sort of a requirement, perhaps a state requirement, that they can't turn a kid loose at the school without someone there to take charge of them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's, I mean, people, some kids get on the bus, I go pick up mine and I just walk, but it's just a big mess. And it's like, people are honking, getting pissed because they're stuck in that lane of cars, and it's happens every day when the school is in session. So something to think about there. I mean, it's, and in the morning, it gets really kind of, in the morning, I think it's better, but in afternoon is really horrible.
We also have that same general problem up on Lynn Avenue where the middle school is, because you come up Lynn Avenue and you got to turn just before the traffic signal to the left to get into the school to pick up the kid. And then you come out on Holmes or you come out on the Allura. And so that circuit up there is bad. They got another one at McKinley, similar. There's just not enough room at any of the schools to pick up private vehicles to pick up a large amount of children in a small amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, this one doesn't really have a secondary, I mean, there is through the neighborhood, but it's just no secondary way.
So do you guys, I'm curious, just to be straight up with you, this week and part of last week, we've been inundated with calls from folks, I won't say whether they're parents or non-parents, about these pickup and drop-off times at schools. And it's interesting to me because what we're understanding from the school district, what we heard from the school district was a little more than 50% of the parents now. This wasn't before COVID, but this is the reality of today. A little more than 50% of the grade school age children are being picked up and dropped off by vehicle instead of using the bus system. And so this year in particular, we're seeing a much bigger traffic impact from the kind of trips that are occurring now. The school that I see it at is John McLaughlin, because I drive by that on my way in, and the backup is different than I've ever seen it before. There's always been a little bit of backup on South End, especially for southbound traffic trying to turn across the through lane. But now we're seeing it wrap around the neighborhood street up onto Salmonberry. And I'm hearing the same kind of problems are happening at, this first I heard about, Dana mentioned the Holcomb to me. I got a complaint about St. John's, who doesn't have busing, but they kind of have their own issues there. And we've been dealing with, routes and drop-off options at Gardner Middle School, or not Gardner Middle School, Gaffney Lane. So, I mean, I guess if I'm Ray Atkinson, I'm saying, man, I wonder, I used to bicycle to school. I just noticed John McLaughlin did a remodel at the school, and they built a beautiful large bike rack that is empty. It was built this summer, and there's no bikes on it right now. So I don't know about this mandate, whether there's a mandate to pick up your children or if kids can still bike to school or not. But yeah, it's a situation that I'm not sure our infrastructure had counted on, right? Having that level of parents kind of driving their child to and from school.
Well, I can tell you one, as I'm speaking as a parent, but I'm professional too here. I mean, I can't really send my kid with a bike, even if I wanted to, because we live off the Forsyth Road and there's no sidewalk, there's no bike lanes. It would be suicide sending my child to school that's just virtually across the Sears farm field. And so I think it's the same thing. And you know, some of these schools are having challenges. Only reason I'm pointing this because we're having backup. I'm looking at this Park Place urbanization study, but I'm also looking this, and I'm like, we're right there on that curve. I'm just seeing this every day. People are pissed off coming up down the hill, trying to make that turn. Other person is trying to make a turn into there. It's just the disaster waiting to happen. And yeah, there's probably frustrated people that don't have kids and they want to get home or whatever place they're going out in the countryside, and they're just pissed that they're stuck in that traffic. So I don't know if there's something for city to look to manage situations like this. I mean, it's going to be happening. It's not just like month of September, you know, first few weeks of school. It's going to be all the way through this year. I'm sure people have these plans. I don't know if their plans will change for the foreseeable future in terms of, you know, dropping off their kids at school. So something to think about as we're looking at this urbanization plan.
Yeah, well, the urbanization plan is really trying to help prioritize routes, you know, complete sidewalk paths that get folks into the neighborhoods. The Sears properties slated for some development that's going to come forth. That's going to provide kind of a back trail access for, you know, kids again to be able to walk more to school. But I agree, Jennifer, there's certain parents that live in the county that have children that attend Holcomb School that really can't allow, you know, I mean, you know, put their children on county roads. There's just, you know, that's just not an option. But is there a better management of maybe the drop off time so that happens in shifts a little bit? I don't know. That you're right. I think getting together with the school district would probably make some sense, because our infrastructure, I think, is just not going to be able to handle the kind of, you know, if the new norm is, you know, high percentages of parents, instead of using the transit bus system to bring their child to school in a personal vehicle, that you know, the schools sites aren't set up for that, nor is the transportation network for pretty much probably every one of our schools.
Well, I looked your Sears plan. I don't see where they're really showing even connection into the school per se grounds. I mean, I could see where people could use those public streets to park their cars and then go pick up their kids so they're not in, and maybe, you know, like just connectivity. There's no proposed connectivity there unless I'm missing something on the plans.
No, you're right. I mean, I'm just talking about that pedestrian access way where folks could kind of enter from the subdivision as opposed to from the main drive aisle. So
yeah, I think that would help. I think there's some plans eventually for the Holcomb to expand all the way to Forsyth Road, which then there would be additional connectivity there.
I'm trying to understand why parents are driving instead of driving their kids instead of using the bus. Is it because of COVID? They don't want the children to be in a bus full of kids wearing masks, and they want to have a kid, you know, not wearing a mask in their own private vehicle? Like, is it a COVID reason why there's more people driving their kids instead of using the bus?
I'm not sure. I think that it doesn't make any sense if they're in the classroom, they have their mask
That's what I mean.
out there with other kids. What does it matter if they're on the bus? I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Maybe they're not managed there as well because bus driver is focused on driving and kids could be taking masks and doing the kid thing, and probably that's the main reason.
Yeah, I mean, our theory is that, Ray, is that it's another exposure point that folks are I don't know. I haven't really talked to the transportation group yet, so I'm going to make a note to kind of reach out to them to figure out, usually the first couple weeks of school, trying to figure out bus routes, which kids are going to be at the bus stops. There's kind of a couple weeks of a learning curve there for the school district to figure out how many kids are actually busing, what the timing is for those, and how to get those kids to and from school in a manner that is acceptable. I know Dana was sharing me a little bit of her personal experience with buses in outside of Oregon City, but in the school district she's in. And yeah, I mean, it's quite a learning curve there, I guess. And so trying to reach out to the transportation group at the school district is definitely a good next step. And I'll do that and try and report back to you folks.
Cool. Thank you.
Hey, John, I have a question about something that might be reasonably inexpensive but helpful in lots of these discussions we've been having about how various places have troubles with left-hand turns or piled up traffic or something. Can the city get some stationary time-lapse cameras that are portable and can be moved to various locations and run for 24, 36, 48 hours so that we can see how the traffic works at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody's working and we only have reports from people who are in the mess, so that we can sort of get a better feel for what's happening out there?
Well, we can definitely work with folks like traffic counts and folks that do that, as opposed to just counts, actually do video documentation of that rather than buy a bunch of cameras. But yeah, we could, what I'm hearing is we should be looking at some of these hotspots a little bit more.
Yeah, because what I'm remembering is that 10, 15 years ago, there was an outfit in Vancouver, Washington, that was making such a device that was relatively inexpensive. And it was like a digital camera on a pole that they could strap to something so it'd be there for a bit. But with modern technology, I'm thinking it's a better camera now.
Well, I'm sure it is. I just we've got some staffing issues too, right? We're still trying to deliver a pretty big workload, and then to have, it might sound pretty simple to send somebody out with the camera and get it installed, but
No, this is a remote. You go out and put it on the post and you walk away, and then you come back in 2 days and retrieve it.
Somebody's got to mount that and put it in place and download that and view that.
Right? What you need is a volunteer.
Oh, I'm hearing an interest.
But, it might be that somebody, that it might be something that a traffic committee assist person might want to do.
There you go. I'm noting that. Right?
Yeah, volunteered himself.
Hey, see, one of the ways to make advances is to be willing to undertake some of this stuff by yourself and show that it's useful. But we need to move on, or we're never going to get done.
Yep.
Right. I was trying to get through this quickly, Henry. So just giving you an update here. Dana actually wanted to share some of the ways in which we're using that vehicle registration fee, which we're all of us with cars. Ray, I don't think you're paying for this, but the rest of us are. But in February 2019, the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners approved the ordinance to setting a $30 per year countywide vehicle registration fee. And they started collecting this in January 2020. And 40% of the funds collected are distributed to Clackamas County cities. So each individual agency has identified and is identifying, continue to identify projects that will be completed with their share of the vehicle registration fee. So we thought you might be curious how Oregon City is using our local share of the county vehicle registration fee. We've worked hard to balance the use of these funds so that we're supporting, bicycle transportation and pedestrian transportation, as well as congestion management. And our first few projects focus on walking and biking and rolling, if you will. So, because biking isn't the only wheeled transportation device anymore. I'm seeing more scooters and one-wheeled things all the time. So we'll still be focusing on neighborhood concerns, but we'll also be working on a few city congestion management projects. So we've got the following projects: the rapid flashing beacon projects on Malala Avenue at Barclay Hills Drive. That was one of those projects that was funded through these vehicle registration fees. So we think it's an improved crossing, and I see it used pretty regularly for residents along Barclay Hills or Mountain View, or just generally using Malala Avenue in that area. The Gaffney Lane street widening and sidewalk infill project. Again, this connects the neighborhood with more accessible sidewalk across the frontage there, so that we can get kids and their parents to and from the school without hopefully having to drive and walking instead. So the roadway's been widened and straightened, and we've added in sidewalk connections, and we put in a nice obvious crosswalk there. And then we continue to want to work on sidewalk infill, leveraging our pavement maintenance utility funding with these vehicle registration fees and SDCs, and together trying to do sidewalk infill. So I don't know if you've been in the McLaughlin neighborhood along 8th Street and John Adams Street. That's a good example of areas where we're pairing some of this with some of the other project funding that we have. So, and then I guess more for, the existing projects that you're probably very, very familiar with. We hear about it all the time. When's Malala Avenue project going to finish? And we're going to kind of give you that update, but that's another rapid flashing beacon, as well as the Holcomb Boulevard work. So I heard that they saw cut Holcomb Boulevard to start the conduit work for the rapid flashing beacons on Holcomb Boulevard. So it won't be a speed sign, Senator Mayor, but we will have those 2 pedestrian activated crosswalks that my recollection is, I think they showed up on the last slide, but I think on Swan and they're near the little store. I can't remember if that's Frederick or Front.
Yeah.
And then we've got one more planned at Lynn Avenue at William Street. So when they got land use approval for Gardner Middle School, we required a nice wide sidewalk along William Street, and there the intention is to have a new rapid flashing beacon between kind of the city property where the police department is and planning is, to get across Lynn Avenue there onto that nice wide sidewalk. So again, our hope is middle school students, at least. I think parents still are allowing or willing to allow middle school students walk to school if they're within probably the proximity that makes sense. And then we've got these planned projects: Gardner Middle School sidewalk infill. We'd like to do some of that work the original intent was to do that with Gardner Middle School, but we've got some sewer work to do in that neighborhood first before we build the new sidewalks. And then the Highway 213 and Beaver Creek Road westbound right turn lane. This is more of a congestion project at our this is our busiest intersection, I believe. And the idea is the project will convert the existing yield turn into a free flow movement and include an acceleration lane onto Highway 213. So if you're on Beaver Creek Road heading kind of northwest, instead of having a yield sign there as you turn onto 213, it'd be more of a free flowing lane.
When is that scheduled to?
We have that budgeted, and our intention is to solicit for proposals to do the work, to do the design work here soon.
But what is the schedule for actual construction? What are you guys targeting?
I don't know off the top of my head, Chedemere. We've got to obviously work through the design exceptions with ODOT. So I think it's a little premature for that, but our intention is to try to get at least as much as we can accomplished. I want to say we didn't have enough funds to complete the construction in this 2-year budget, but we're hoping to get through the design phase and have that pretty well in the queue and ready for the next, well, if there's some federal infrastructure funding or in a future budget.
Have a shovel ready.
Yeah.
I also have a question about this right turn lane, because currently it's a pedestrian crossing there, and if it's free flowing with no yield, are people still able to cross there, like walking or biking to get across there, or does it no longer have a crosswalk?
Yeah, I'm not. I think it's going to be difficult for us to not have a crosswalk there, but how they control that is going to be, part of the design, right?
Okay, so I want to make sure, because it sounds like free flowing sounds like they won't stop for people walking or biking. So.
Well, yeah, that's why we need to make sure they know when there's a pedestrian there. I wouldn't say it's a high pedestrian use right there, but as we see more development out on Maple Lane, it could be used more.
Okay.
And then last but not least is the traffic signal upgrades as part of the countywide transportation system management and operations grant. We will be getting new traffic signal controllers throughout the city. So that's also going to be how we're going to utilize some of those vehicle registration fees. So, really, I just want to acknowledge that, we think we have problems funding these, I would call them demands, right? As growth continues, without the county vehicle registration fee, these projects just wouldn't happen. We wouldn't even take them on. So I know folks don't necessarily like paying additional fees, but these fees have been instrumental in getting good projects, good safety projects, good pedestrian projects, good bike lane projects done.
One nice thing that I guess that people maybe would help, or just how Washington County has, or even ODOT has, your dollars at work. Like when you guys are doing something, saying this is being paid by vehicle registration fees, so people can relate to the the work, to the money that they're spending. Are you guys, so this is for this cycle, whatever, how many years was this? This would get renewed or
Oh yeah, as far as we know, the vehicle registration fee is ongoing. Although I've heard the county commission talk about reversing it, but I don't think they got any steam. So at this point, we're assuming that's going to happen, be an ongoing funding source.
so
Understanding as well.
So do you have so you work every time, so this was like for a couple of years or 4 years, and then you guys can go through the process again and select the projects that would be funded by vehicle registration fees. I think you have a number of projects, right? And you prioritize them, or how do you guys arrive to these projects?
Well, we'd like to have a 6-year capital improvement plan, we're working towards that. But typically, it would be, acknowledging that these are for these kinds of projects. It's really helping to fill that gap between what SDCs can fund and what we're not really collecting in gas taxes, but focusing them on, capacity for pedestrians, bikes, vehicles. So transportation specific. Right now, what we have is a 2-year budget.
Okay.
All right, traffic counts. So we missed we've been on a 3-year cycle, but with COVID-19, the traffic numbers were so low in 2020 that we postponed our traffic counts. We are moving towards traffic counts beginning on September 27th. And after that, I think they picked that because the community college starts classes. Is that right, Ray? They start classes after the 27th. So
Partly, not fully.
yeah, we're trying to get, we want to get the traffic numbers. They still may be a little bit jaded by what's going on in the world, but we kind of notice our congestion levels are getting back to normal. So anyway, we're going to move forward with that through the end of November, collect all the data that we need or that we have typically been getting. So if you guys recall, this information, and which includes volume, speed, and classification, and we get that at 185 locations citywide. We are going to include a couple more in the that neighborhood off of Myers Road. Drawing a blank on it, but we had the neighborhood contact come and talk to Frontier Parkway. So we are going to get some more information on that as well this time around. But this information is available on the city's website. You can go look at all the historical data. And when we get this new 2021 data, that'll be uploaded as well. So pretty good resource. And just wanted you to know that. We did reach out to ODOT and based on the tech, and it was Tim's kind of concerns about speed along 213 being 45 miles an hour and wanting or 55 miles an hour and wanting that to be reduced. So ODOT's going to look at that for us, and that we were just wanted to report that. I don't their timeline. I don't think we know. They are a bit backlogged, as you know, with speed studies. But the good news is they are going to look at that section of Highway 213.
So that probably will be maybe even impacted with all the development that's going in right there at the Home Depot, right? There are going to be significant changes. Well, maybe at Redland and stuff, right?
You mean because of the speed change?
No. I mean, like the traffic patterns may change a little bit now that you get. I mean, if that development comes in, there's going to be higher volume of cars in and out there.
Right. You're right about that. Yeah. I don't think we're going to wait for that. We're going to do traffic study, and if it needs to readjust, we'll readjust later. This is another item that Tim brought. It was brought to our attention that the I-205 wayfinding signage along Washington Street between the Home Depot traffic signal and I-205 were hard to see. So Jason and crew from our street department kind of confirmed 4 signs that needed or hard to see. They were posted behind the sidewalk with part of the jug handle project. So we've relocated those and made sure they're visible. So that was kind of a good observation that I think came out of the Transportation Advisory Committee, or at least a member. So just good job with that. It's always helpful to have eyes and ears out there besides staff. That's just more graphics to kind of show you which signs we're moving from behind the sidewalk out into the planter strip or wide section of sidewalk there. They'll be mounted such rate that they don't interfere with the bike lanes.
They're not behind trees anymore?
Right.
There's a new sign right there.
So Wall Avenue, it is coming to an end. There is an end in sight. I know folks feel like that's taken a very, very long time, and it has. It's been a lot of work that's gone underway, and the contractor that's doing it is a good contractor, but a busy contractor. Oregon City is only work zone. So I don't know if you've been on it lately, but they're nearly done with the final paving. They've got tonight, I believe, and I'm hoping they get everything done tonight. There may be one more night to do that, but much of the work is done. I think tonight they've got to finish the through lane, which would be the northbound lane, and then all the side streets to do. So it's the top lift of the paving. We are starting to build punch lists, even though the project's not complete, trying to keep the contractor focused. We've got some cracked concrete, things like that, cracked curbs that they'll have to come back and redo. And obviously they got signal work, striping work, rapid flashing beacons to take care of. But pavement markings will happen after a couple weeks after we're done with paving. So just, there'll still be barrels out there. And then turn on the signals early in October, irrigation for all the hanging baskets. That was part of this design. And then completing those mid-block crosswalks. So on the 28th, and actually there's another meeting on the 29th, but I've got a slide specific for that one. But on the 28th, we're having a special joint work session between Oregon City and West Lynn to talk about what West Lynn has going kind of in terms of kind of economic development or redevelopment, and what Oregon City's got going in terms of both those topics as well. And then ODOT's going to talk about their various projects, of which we know there's mostly the I-205 project and its various phases, funding, tolling, or regional mobility pricing. And then ODOT's also managing the Highway 43 improvement project for West Lynn. So there'll be some discussion about that. And then our commission has raised several times that there's a 100-year anniversary of the historic arch bridge. So we're going to ask them to talk about that. That'll all be on the 28th. And I think it's going to be a pretty interesting discussion. So I would hope that the Transportation Advisory Committee members would tune into that meeting, and not necessarily that there's an expectation that you make comment, but I think it's going to be informative. It'll be the latest and greatest from ODOT on that. I want to say it's a 3-hour scheduled meeting. So the idea is to present, but also provide opportunity for the City Commission in Oregon City and the City Council in West Lynn to be able to raise concerns, speak on behalf of either city's perspectives.
And where and how does one do that?
It's a public meeting, so if you go on to our the city meeting, upcoming meetings, you can find that meeting and get information on how to join the meeting.
Is Zoom?
Yep. Yeah, if you can imagine, neither city is doing in-person meetings. Well, I shouldn't say that. Oregon City is doing in-person meetings, limited in-person meetings. Some commissioners are coming, some aren't. So we decided, and then West Lynn, I don't believe, is doing in-person meetings. So yeah, it's a Zoom meeting.
I don't see the Oregon City West. Oh, I guess it's this slide here. So it's the 28th. There's just 2 workshops next week. Never mind.
Yeah, 2 special meetings. The other one's on the 30th. And that meeting is intended to talk about the Oregon City Westland pedestrian and bicycle concept plan. So the work that was done on that is complete. The project management team and the project advisory committee determined that moving forward with these two areas, referred to as the upstream and then downstream corridors, was best at this time. There's still a lot of unknowns, right, about each of these areas. And there was a lot of questions that were raised about each of these areas. And each area, brings benefits and burdens along with it, right? So the goal of this joint work session with Lynn and Oregon City is to determine if there is support on both sides of the river for moving forward with adoption of the Oregon City Westland pedestrian and bicycle concept plans.
Is that likely to sail through and keep moving forward?
I would say I don't really know where Lynn is on this. I think they're maybe more supportive than what we've heard from Oregon City. Oregon City's had some heated discussions about this, and I think it's trying to be visionary and realistic at the same time is always kind of a challenge. So I do again encourage you. I don't know if there's going to be an opportunity for public comment. I want to say these are work sessions. So I don't know that they're going to open that up for public comment, but I think I heard that they are not going to do that. But I think it'd be interesting for you to hear, and I think I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. Maybe Kim can answer. I don't know if there's a plan, that pedestrian and bicycle bridge concept plan. I know they came to present to us. I don't know if we, as a TAC, made any kind of motion for approval. I don't quite remember.
I don't think we did. We didn't all agree about it.
So it was one of those cases of we felt we didn't have enough information to be helpful.
Well, we all didn't agree on it. Some of us were supportive, some of us were against it. So we didn't have agreement on this committee.
Okay.
For us.
Yeah. Well, and that's understandable. It is kind of visionary, but yet it also leaves so many unanswered questions. So I really think that the question for our feeling is that without an adopted concept plan by each agency, it's pretty unlikely to ever see further study work or further legislative funding or any kind of funding package. If you adopt it, it still may not happen, but you're more likely to get support from the region for a project like this.
ODOT doesn't have any obligation as part of all this 205 work not to facilitate better flow of bikes and pedestrians.
As part of the I-205 project, as far as I understand, this is their obligation.
To do the study or build the bridge?
To complete the study, sorry. Yeah, to complete, which they've done, right? And now they're just kind of here to kind of continue to usher it along if the local jurisdictions on either side of the river want to support it.
And if both jurisdictions want to, will then ODOT continue to work on it and find the funding mechanisms, or this will be up to each city to fund the construction of this structure?
Well, that's up to yet to be determined, Cheddar, but my sense is ODOT recognizes the region needs better. There's no pedestrian or bike. There's very little auto bridge crossings, but there's the closest one is now the Tillicum crossing, right? I guess there's Selwood Bridge as well, but I guess Selwood Bridge is the furthest southerly bridge. Short of that, there's really not a bridge. So I think the region recognizes that it'd be good to have a pedestrian crossing. whether it's right here or not, that's kind of the debate.
Can we confirm whether there's public comment next Thursday, just so I can be aware? Because I'm trying to, so some of my students at the college want to speak at it possibly. And so I want to confirm whether they're allowing public comment next Thursday.
Yeah, Kim, can we, I thought I heard that we were not going to accept public comment because it was such a big meeting with so many different, members that were elected members. And so but we can confirm that.
Okay.
Kim, can you send the TACM confirmation email
Yeah.
on that? Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's it
So-
for me.
Oh, good. So now, do we want to have any more discussion about anything, or do we want to call it a day and move on?
I guess I just wanted to share about the park last Friday because it's parking day. So I don't know if anyone else got out to look at it, but there's a parklet in downtown Oregon City last Friday that was interesting to watch. So just want to share that as an update.
So with that, I'm going to say this wraps up the meeting for September 21st, 2021 of the Oregon City Traffic Advisory Committee, and we stand adjourned. Thank you all for all of you, staff and volunteers alike, for showing up.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.